He wrote the book. He knows the cure. Matthew J. Friedman. But guess what? He's been running the National Center for PTSD. He ran it for 30 or 20 or 30 years. MD, getting money from the drug companies, and he said, go ahead, give them all tons of drugs. Okay? Cray drugs. 2, 3, 5, 10. You'll be fine, darling. That's what you kept saying. You'll be fine, darling. I hope. Okay, she went into the doctors, the VA doctors. You're poisoning my son. Oh my God. How can you be given that many drugs for post-traumatic stress? He was on a roller coaster. Ooh. Just like Oscar Jr. and Rick Warren's son for several years. Finally, he died in his sleep with an incredible amount of drugs. So this poor lady and her husband, they wrote the book, and they've been going to Congress, trying to get through to Congress, meeting with Congress people, saying, hey, you got to stop that. No result. Doors slammed. But Shad Mashad and Dr. Figley and Dr. Bessel van der Kolk all created the PTSD concept. They have never talked to their colleague, Dr. Matthew Friedman, and said, hey, Matthew Friedman, that is obscene and it's got to stop right now. No, maybe it's because they're just so nice. Okay, watch their videos. They are the nicest people in the world. Oh my God, I wish I had people like them in my life. Okay, my family's just as nice like 90% of the time, but then like 10% of the time they're freaking out because they have severe post-traumatic stress. Okay, but I know Figley and Bessel van der Kolk and Shad Mashad are nice 100% of the time. They are like, okay, but here's this big secret about them. Okay, it's called professional denial and psychic numbing. So their own friends have been saying, we got to be aware that we also are susceptible to psychic numbing. And, you know, if we always are walking around, you know, enjoying talking to children who have been going through hell and enjoying our job so much, then we might like lose sight of the fact that we need to take a stand and talk to the politicians who are refusing to pay for this and are refusing to integrate this information throughout the medical system. So, I have discovered it's a concerted, knowledgeable conspiracy. Okay? Let me show you. Okay? It's really crazy. So I got the evidence right here. Okay. Let's see. Here it is. George Soros, Taylor Swift's handler. George Soros. Let's see, we got George Soros. Better tell you about these two. What am I looking for? I think that's it. Okay, George Soros. So, oh yeah, I was going to tell you about this other thing though. So, that 100 pages I sent to Rick Warren, and I've been sending it out to like hundreds of people in the last over 10 years. So it's all the accumulated research that I got starting in 2000 when I started going to UCLA library and copying study after study after study. Okay, so anyway, I found this book right after 9/11, 2002. So, an incredible, astonishing 9, 10, 11, 12. Six months. 6 months after 9/11. Well, you can write a book in 6 minutes. 6 months. But this guy is so insightful. So, George Soros. This is crazy. So, connect the dots here. So, George Soros has been putting hundreds of millions of dollars into getting prosecutors elected all over the country that'll be soft on crime, you know, that'll, you know, they don't require like mental health care for people. Like, so Taylor Swift has 15 or 20 life-threatening stalkers they get restraining orders. They send her family messages like, I want to cut you up in little pieces and I'm coming to get you. Okay, and they get restraining orders. They go to jail for a week or two, and then they get out, and then now she's got to live with that. Okay, so no requirements anywhere for any kind of mental health care. So then for some creepy thing, he funded, and he's teamed up with Scooter Braun, and now they own all of her music, even though she hates Scooter Braun because he's been like nasty and abusive towards her over the years. I just talked to the guy who discovered Scooter Braun and like made him really successful. Okay, I'm wondering what I'm going to hear about that. But anyway, this is crazy. So September 11th was a traumatic experience. The idea that terrorists are willing to kill, see this, just underlines the fact. 8 billion people. You got to get this. This is how you figure out why we're all getting sick. So, Rick Warren is trying to heal the world. He's looking around at the world. He has all kinds of, 6 or 8 or 10,000 members that are going through traumatic experiences, coming to him to heal and share their traumatic experiences. Okay. Everything that goes in our ears, our eyes, it then like bounces around in there forever. So it's like if you can imagine if you could create a circular mirror that's perfect and then shoot a little light inside and then close it, and it would bounce around for the rest of eternity. Okay, that's the same way our brain is. Everything that goes in. So everything they put on TV, from a young age, we watch the cartoons of characters beating each other up. Then we watch the adults, on TV arguing and killing each other. It all goes in there for programming, memories. Okay, and then 50% of Americans have hypertension right now. 50% of American adults. And 95% of Americans get hypertension as they get older. So that's a symptom of post-traumatic stress. Then you go into the doctor, and the doctor says, we don't know why people get high blood pressure. It would be a good idea for you to cut your salt and exercise and reduce your stress. And here's a beta blocker. It'll block adrenaline at a cellular level. But I'm not going to sit down and talk to you and help you identify what's causing that stress. So my dad's book, which is the cure for almost everything, published in 1984, it says you do a stress inventory. So you could actually have a computer program that goes down this list and says, how do you feel about your mom? You could have a 6-year-old do it. I feel okay. But then their blood pressure goes up or their skin conductance changes and it shows that they're having a stress reaction. Are you sure? The computer is saying that you're having a stress reaction. And then, the 10-year-old or the 20-year-old or the 90-year-old says, let me think. There was this one time, and then you talk about it, and then you reveal it, and oh yeah, that's the cure. Okay, that's what Rick Warren wrote in his book. What is it called? The one with the diet book with Dr. Daniel Amen. Okay, and Disclosure. I got this other book, Pennebaker. Professor Pennebaker at the University of Texas. He's done a bunch of studies, and he put together books with hundreds of studies that said that, they did a test where somebody wrote about their problems or their family members, and then their blood pressure went down and they got healthier. And then, okay, so that's the cure. So Taylor Swift, it's an interesting story. Her manager, I think it's Jesse Shoddy's. So his son was going to this church with his wife, Clay Scroggins. Clay Scroggins does these really great seminars where he, talks with people and he talks to them about emotional healing. And so I think it was Jay, either Jay is the son or Jesse is the son. And so he and his wife were having a problem with her getting not being able to get pregnant, even with a bunch of fertility treatments. So they were both going through this seminar, and Clay Scroggins led him to forgive a bunch of people he was angry at. And he had this like radical change in his relationship with his wife, and it led to her getting pregnant with twins. So he did a really cool video where he shared about that. And I've been trying to get, Clay Scroggins and all of his ideas into a primetime TV show ever since ever since I saw that. So now Taylor Swift's mother has had cancer 5 years ago. Well, maybe there's a connection between the fact that she has had 10 or more life-threatening stalkers at that point, and her mom was really worried about her. And every time she goes out of her apartment, there's a bunch of paparazzi taking pictures and harassing her, and she has to have 3 bodyguards. So maybe that's why her mother is like really worried and her stress is through the roof. Okay, so there's along with, and by the way, the cancer can come back, Mrs. Swift. Okay, unless we have global healing, and then all those psychopaths are going to heal. So I'm getting to that, though. All right? Hard to believe. Billy Graham talked about the same thing. I got a video of him from, it's on my YouTube channel. I posted it 10 years ago. It was in Honolulu, 40 or 50 years ago. He said, what if we could have a spiritual awakening and men could heal and have love in their hearts for each other instead of hate and anger? So he said through Jesus Christ that could happen. So that's what I'm working on. So anyway, my dad had the same experience with one of his patients. His name was Ollie. The whole story's in here. Ollie came in on a bunch of high blood pressure drugs. His blood pressure was going through the roof. He could drop dead at any minute. So my dad talked to him for a little while, found out he was Catholic, found out that he was super angry with his son-in-law. And he said, these drugs aren't working because you're so angry at your son-in-law. Why don't you go talk to your priest about forgiveness and talk to him about your anger at your son-in-law, and I think it'll help you with your high blood pressure, and then you won't drop dead. So I'm paraphrasing that. So a week later, he came in, Ollie came in, and he had a big smile on his face, and my dad checked the blood pressure, and it was way down. And so Ollie said, I went to my priest, and I talked to him, and then I forgave my son-in-law, and I went around and I forgave a bunch of other people. So that's the Jesus Christ cure that I've been trying to get into primetime TV for 20 years. So, back to George Soros. So this is, he's all connected to all of our leaders. So you got to hear this, and you can understand why we keep having a war every 10 years. September 11th was a traumatic experience. Page 149. The idea that terrorists were willing to kill a large number of innocent civilians and kill themselves in the process shocked all of us. The attack was incredibly audacious, and its effects surpassed even the perpetrator's expectations. Television brought the event into people's homes, and people were terrorized. The illusion that the United States is invulnerable was shattered. We're all feeling, wow, like we're not secure. So it's collectively, the entire country had a traumatic experience, just like when JFK was shot. A traumatic event of this kind affects people on 2 levels: the instinctual and the rational. See, this guy like a super genius on this. If the trauma is strong enough, the 2 levels may become disconnected. He wrote temporarily. Oh, no. Temporarily or permanently. Between the instinctual and the rational. So, instinctual is like your lizard brain, and the rational is like your higher thinking. So you're saying people are going around with like a disconnection between their higher conscious brain? Like a bunch of people? Maybe those are the people. Oh, wait a second. Didn't Taylor Swift sing about that? Why you gotta be so mean? Why you gotta be so mean? I haven't heard it in about a year. I can't even remember how the tune goes. Somebody must have pushed you down and made you small. So, you're saying that when we traumatize 400 million Americans, then they become like, oh yeah, but you didn't write it here, but it also disconnects between their spirit. So the rational is connected to the spirit, and the heart, the spirit, your spirit, the little piece of God. Okay, so you're saying the people I know are walking around, maybe that explains, like, they're nice 90% of the time, but like 10% of the time, there seems to be a disconnection between the rational and the instinctual. And like they start yelling at each other about the dumbest things of all time. Okay, I'm watching that. Okay. Whew. So, and everybody I know is experiencing the same thing. And they're seeing it in the people around them. Okay. With the passage of time... Oh, wait. There's another thing worth mentioning here. Dissociation, the hidden epidemic. You guys, the PTSD expert knows that lady. What's her name? I got that book around here somewhere. Martha... I'm forgetting now. She's at UCLA? No, Harvard? Okay, she wrote a whole book saying... most human beings on the planet are like, there's an epidemic of dissociation. So that's what they're talking about here. Bella Hadid talked about that. Bella Hadid. She said, talked about dissociation. She can't remember anything from her childhood. She thought she had ADHD, and then they put her on amphetamines when she was a teenager. And then she had anorexia and suicidal for the next 10 years. Okay, so now she's trying to heal. But anyway, she talked about dissociation. All right, with the passage of time, reason regains the upper hand, but the memory remains. Or it doesn't. So, some people seem to be like in a permanent state, like all those stalkers that are like trying to kill Taylor Swift, which, I really can't understand because her music is just, okay, she's my favorite musician of all time. But her music is like really heartfelt. It's like cathartic. And it's about love. And so it's really, really hard for me to imagine a heartless psychopath listening to her music over and over and then thinking, I think I want to kill Taylor Swift and her family. Okay, that doesn't make any sense to me. So I got another theory on that one. But I'm going to get to... I'll talk about that another time. So anyway, now this guy owns all of her stuff. And she's really pissed about it. Okay, so... With the passage of time, reason regains the upper hand, but the memory remains. We are still wrestling to come to terms with it. Our view of the world has been shaken, and we are actively engaged in rearranging it. Then he goes on to talk about here's how we can reshape the public's views to line up with our agenda. Okay, I swear to God. Okay, so it's almost like, he knew it was coming beforehand. Dare I say. Who was it? The Carlyle Group? Wait a second. Isn't the Carlyle Group one of the one that funded buying all of Taylor Swift's stuff? Yeah. George Soros, the Carlyle Group, and Scooter Braun. Oh, yeah. And then the Carlyle Group, on 9/11, they were having a big meeting with Osama bin Laden's family right there in New York. I wonder if they had a bird's eye view. Yeah, that's a weird coincidence. On 9/11, they're all sitting in there in a big high-rise. Are they looking like a block away? Was it a block away from 9/11? From the buildings? I don't know. I know they had a meeting there. Because Osama bin Laden's all of his family, they were given like hundreds of billions of dollars to this group. They're real good buddies. Okay, how do I know all this? Because my two friends recruited Osama bin Laden in 1979. My friend Irwin told me that 20 years ago before he died. So he said, oh yeah, Chris, I met Osama bin Laden back at Judy Lira's house in Los Angeles. Judy was the friend he introduced me to. She had this nice house. I went there, and she had all these pictures with the royal princes. Oh yeah, and then Irwin used to get girls for the Saudi princes. He was like a high-class pimp. After he retired from the CIA for 30 years, working with JFK in the White House, then Johnson, then Nixon, then I think he wasn't there for Carter. I think he was one of the ones that got fired. And when Carter got in, he fired like 100 people in the CIA. Okay, I think he got fired then. Anyway, it's a long story, and I'm going around and around and around because my head's spinning too. Okay, it's a lot. But anyway, let me go on here because it's something you got to know. They're about to get their lady in the White House in a couple days. Okay, but if like 10 super celebrities were to watch this video, who knows what could happen? We might change the world for the better. So, there's some things I know firsthand, there's some things I know secondhand, and then there's third hand. Okay, it's like second or third hand, second hand. What they're doing is, okay, let me mention something. Rockefeller Foundation, right after World War II, Rockefeller Foundation commissioned a study. Professors at University of Colorado. My cousin's dad is a professor there of psychiatry. So they commissioned a study on post-traumatic stress, the 1950s. So they studied the country and they said, because of the war, we're having a really high rate of mental breakdowns and problems. And the solution is we got to educate all Americans about what is the solution. And we got to educate all Americans about this problem, about mental hygiene, I think is what they called it. So I got that quote, a page from that in my 150 pages. They never did it. Okay, that was, like, it's contagious. I got like 10 books that say it's contagious. Daniel Goleman. Post-traumatic stress is contagious. Emotions are contagious. Secondary traumatic stress. It's contagious. Okay, when you have a contagious epidemic, you got to treat everybody. If everybody's got it, you treat one person. Okay, doesn't work. Okay, the cure needs to be talked about in a way that 8 billion people hear. Hey guys, we got a contagious epidemic. So breathe. The real is based on the interest of the state. Open society idealism stresses the interest of humanity. Theodore Roosevelt can be taken as the protagonist. Okay, there's some really great stuff here. 170, 149. In military matters, there's a significant difference between the Bush and Clinton administrations. President Bush is determined to exploit the technological advantage the United States currently enjoys and to push ahead without letting international agreements stand in his way. So, we don't care if we agreed with the Russians. We're not going to build a whole new fleet of nuclear weapons or whatever. To hell with peace agreements. Let's start a new arms race. The National Missile Defense holds out the promise of reestablishing the unilateral control that the United States enjoyed during the Cold War, but this time without an adversary capable of inflicting total destruction. The Bush administration came into office with a determination to pursue NMD against all opposition, and it has not been diverted from this course by September 11th. Politically, the terrorist attack provided the Bush administration with the enemy it needed to justify its strong defensive posture. Prior to September 11th, the administration was looking high and low for an enemy against whom national missile defense could be regarded as a defense. We don't have a good enough boogeyman to justify spending $1 trillion on a weapon system to shoot down those nuclear weapons as they're falling on us. Boom, 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 boom. Ka-choom. You know, it was the Star Wars defense. Reagan talked about that vision. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, I can see it now. Let's spend $1 trillion. It deemed North Korea suitable for that role, at least for the near term, and President Bush pressed South Korean President Kim Jong to stop trying to bring North Korea in from the cold. That's a weird thing for a president to want. We want to keep all those people hostages up there instead of trying to get along with them. I guess why they didn't like when Dennis Rodman went over there. And I heard that Penny Marshall was getting involved with that. Like she was doing a documentary. And then I heard that from her daughter, Tracy Reiner. And then I think Hillary Clinton's State Department threatened her. You better get uninvolved with that thing. Dang, I could have sworn she said that. Anyway, for the longer term, the administration was positioning China as a potential strategic rival. The terrorist attack provided an instant solution. President Bush did not hesitate to declare war on terrorism, and the nation lined up behind the president. It is difficult to see how national missile defense can protect against terrorist attacks, but with the degree of support he is currently enjoying, the president has no difficulty in renouncing the anti-ballistic missile treaty and pushing ahead with national missile defense. Wow, just opportunity knocks. Okay? Terrorism is the ideal enemy because it is invisible and therefore does not disappear. The need for other enemies has dissipated.